Hello friends, Mandar here. I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with green card interview. The interview that happens at the final stage of the green card during the I-485 stage and just before the adjudication of your final application for green card. In the past, the green card interviews were mandatory for family-based immigration. But since 2017, the green card interviews are also mandatory for employment-based green cards. So I'm going to talk to you about what are the things that you should prepare for and expect as part of this green card interview at the final stage of your application, which is I-485. So if you are interested in this topic, stick around until the end and let's get started. If you are here for the first time, welcome. My name is Mandar and I make immigration related videos for US and Canada. I'm not an immigration lawyer, so anything that I say on this video or on my channel is for information purpose only. For your specific immigration need, you should hire a competent immigration attorney. And as always, if you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Now let's get started. Now the interview is the final stage of your green card. This means you have gone through the first two stages of your green card, which is PERM or labor certification for EB2 and EB3 category. Next, you also have your I-140, which is your application for permanent residence based on your specific EB category, which is employment-based category. And after your approval of I-140, and if your date is current, you are allowed to apply for the final stage of the green card, which is I-485. Now you have made it through this stage, and the last part of this process is the interview. Now this interview happens in person. USCIS schedules them at their field office and have you go there with a set of documents. I'm going to go through the document checklist in a minute, but before that you need to know that this interview is mandatory. Now when do you get this appointment notice for the final interview? You typically get it if your priority date is current. So say for instance, if you have filed your I-485 and you have received your EAD and during this time your priority date is still current, depending on how many number of applicants are there in the pool and depending on how complete your file is, the National Visa Center will send your application to the nearest field office or USCIS office near the address that you have mentioned on your I-485 form. So the office that you will be called to should be in the drivable distance of your home address. Now what happens is once your file is completely ready, it's passed on to this field office and then they schedule your interview. You'll get the interview notice in the mail at least 45 to 50 days in advance. So you have ample opportunity in between to collect all your documentation and prepare a file to take it with you for the final interview. At this stage, after you get the interview notice, you may also do your medical examination. If you have already done it in the past and if it's within 2 years, then it is still valid. You don't need to do it again. Now you also need to prepare for all the final documentation that you need to take along with you to the visa interview. Now let's look at what are these documents. Now the list of supporting documents is actually mentioned very comprehensively on your appointment letter. So which is a good thing because a lot of public domain websites will give you the list of documents that you will need to take to the interview. But when you get this notice of interview appointment, it will specifically highlight you what document you need to take along with you to the interview. So let's look at them. Now it clearly says that you are required to attend the interview at a certain time and place. It also says that failure to appear for this interview will result in denial of your application. So if you have difficulty in making this appointment, make sure to call USCIS and reschedule it ahead of time. If you don't show up for the interview without notifying them, then your case will be denied and that is very bad. Now who should you come with? Now if your eligibility is based on your marriage, then your spouse should come with you as well. But we are talking about employment-based green card. Even in case of the employment-based green card, if you are applying for your spouse as well along with you, then you both should go together. You may bring your attorney as a representative also to the interview. That is allowed. Now they also specify that every adult who is part of this application should bring a photo ID along with them. Now adult is whoever is older than 18 years of age. Now sometimes they may also say that you don't need to bring your minor children. So if they are at school, that is perfectly fine. But all the adults above 18 years of age have to be present at the interview with a valid identification document. Now there is a checklist of documents that is specified on your interview appointment letter. The interview notice is one of the main documents that you need to take, and that too original. A completed medical examination form, which is I-693, has to be taken along with you. Remember, if you have already submitted that as part of your I-485 application and if it is valid, then you don't need to do it again. Now, the next one is also important. You need to take your original job offer letter that matches with the job description that has been specified on your I-140 application. If your job has changed since, you also need to attach a supplement J. The supplement J will tell the visa officer that the new job is also in the same category as the one that you mentioned on your I-140 application, and it has the similar responsibilities. Now, it also says that bring all the documentation that will establish your eligibility for lawful permanent residence. You should bring your original EAD card and AP card, which is a combo card, along with you. The next one is also important, your original birth certificate. I have made a special video on birth certificate requirement and you can check it out on my channel. It was just posted 2 or 3 days back. So you might want to watch it because it has very important information specified in it. If you have children, just bring their birth certificate along, although they don't need to be part of the interview. Then you also need to bring your marriage certificate, your tax returns, your bank statements, your previous 5-year tax returns are recommended. Also keep your property documents such as house documents, lease agreement, anything that will establish your residency at your address, which is your electricity bill or things like that. All of those documents that have both of your names on it, yours and your spouse's name on it, that would establish your relationship. Now, as far as possible, bring all the originals together. The visa officer may make all the copies that they need and give the originals back to you. Remember, if your birth certificate or marriage certificate is not in English, you need to bring it translated into English and notarized. Also, you should bring a copy of your I-140 petition that you filed earlier, just for the reference. Now let's talk about what happens on the interview day. When you go to the appointment, arrive at least 30 minutes early. You will be checked into the building. You will be required to provide your 2 pieces of evidence. You will be required to show your 2 pieces of identification. One could be your passport, other could be your driver's license. And then you will need to wait for your turn. Once you have your turn or number called, you will then be escorted by the visa officer to a separate room where you and your wife or your husband will participate in an interview with the visa officer. The interview can last anywhere between 15 minutes to 45 minutes. I have heard that people had interviews for just as little as 15 minutes and as long as 45 minutes. It all depends on the visa officer. At the interview, they will check your identification again. They will ask you some basic questions to establish the relationship between you. Although you submit your documentation and marriage certificate, they will still ask you some questions like what is your anniversary date, what is the name of your mother-in-law, and those sort of things. Doesn't mean that you have to remember your mother-in-law's date of birth, but that is something that you can expect to be asked. The next, the visa officer goes through the set of questionnaires that are mentioned on your 485 application. Now the purpose of this is they want to reiterate and verbally listen to your answers that you have specified on your I-485 application. Those questions can take a long time, at least 15 to 20 minutes, and you have to say yes or no. They will also ask some trick questions that may fumble you, and remember, you have to answer them very accurately. They may ask you who is your current employer, what is your current salary, what is your job description. They will try to match your job description with the original job description that you mentioned on your I-140 application. The intent of all of these questions is to make sure that you are still telling the truth and there is no discrepancy between the application that you have submitted as part of I-140 and what you are telling now. They also want to ensure that since your application is based on EB category, which is employment based category, they want to make sure that you have a bona fide job offer. What it means is the job offer is still existent and it holds true. anything that you have specified in your I-140 has to match this job offer. Now, if you have changed your job in the meantime, then you will need to carry a supplement J demonstrating that the new job offer is also in the same category and similar job description. Now, after all of this is done, the visa officer has already checked your file at this point of time, even before you stepped into an interview. They already know all the answers, what are expected out of you. But if there is a discrepancy, they will point it out. And if it's a significant discrepancy, then it is a problem for you. So make sure you review your I-140 and I-485 applications and the answers that you have provided on those applications so that you can answer them correctly during the interview. If the visa officer is satisfied with your answers, they will give you an indication if your application is going to be approved or not. But diplomatically, they will still say they need to review it by the time you leave the interview process. This interview process is very stressful, so as soon as it's done, you will feel much relieved and you will know in the back of your mind whether it went well or not. Especially if your application is straightforward in the employment-based category, you don't need to worry. More often than not, your application will approved right after you step out of the interview room. By the time you come out to your car or your public transportation, you will get a message if you are signed up for the updates for USCIS that your application has been approved. Within the next several hours or 1 or 2 days, you will also get another message that your new card is being processed. That will indicate that your application was truly approved and you are going to get your green card in the mail in the next 5 to 7 business days. So that's it. That's the interview process. So I hope you got some value out of this video, and if you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.